If you're watching this video, I need you to stop everything right now and listen closely. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story, it's a warning. A raw, unfiltered account of how one phone call shattered my world and forced me to rebuild it from the ashes. Imagine discovering that the two people you trusted most in life had been betraying you right under your nose on the happiest day of your life. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, it was mine. And by the end of this, you'll understand why revenge isn't always about screaming or fighting. It's about strategy, patience, and the cold satisfaction of watching everything fall apart. Stick with me. This is going to be a roller coaster. My name is Alex, and this is how I turned betrayal into my greatest triumph. It all started with that phone call. I was sitting in my office, buried under a pile of blueprints for my architecture firm. The clock on the wall ticked past 8 p.m., and I was wrapping up another late night. My phone buzzed on the desk, the screen lighting up with David's name, the photographer we'd hired for our wedding. David was a quiet guy, professional to a fault, with a knack for capturing those candid moments that make memories feel alive. I hadn't spoken to him in months, not since he'd delivered the final album. "Hey, David," I answered, leaning back in my chair. "What's up? Everything okay with the photos?" There was a pause on the other end, the kind that makes your stomach twist just a little. "Sir, Alex, I found something." His voice was shaky, like he was holding back a storm. "You need to come to my studio right now. Don't tell Emily yet. You have to see this first." Emily, my wife, the woman I'd built my life around. I felt a chill run down my spine, but it wasn't fear. At least not yet. It was something deeper, like a puzzle piece clicking into place that I hadn't even known was missing. "What do you mean, found something?" Pressed, my voice steady despite the racing thoughts in my head. "Just come," he insisted. "Please, it's important." I hung up, staring at the phone for a moment. The office suddenly felt too quiet, the hum of the air conditioner mocking me. Why not tell Emily? What could possibly be in those photos that she couldn't see? I grabbed my keys and headed out, the city lights blurring past as I drove. My mind raced through possibilities, maybe a glitch in the files or some funny outtake we'd missed. But deep down, in that gut instinct we all ignore until it's too late, I knew it was bad. Really bad. When I pulled up to David's studio, a small brick building tucked away in the arts district, the lights were on, casting a warm glow through the windows. He met me at the door, his face pale under the fluorescent bulbs. No hello, no small talk. He just ushered me inside, past the walls lined with framed portraits and wedding shots of happy couples. We sat at his workstation, a cluttered desk with dual monitors and stacks of hard drives. "I was archiving the raw footage," he explained, his hands trembling as he opened his laptop, "going through the backups. And I saw this." He double-clicked a folder labeled Thompson Wedding Raw, and a video player popped up. It was our wedding day, replaying in high definition. There I was, in my tux, grinning like an idiot as I spun Emily around on the dance floor. Laughter echoed from the speakers, glasses clinking, music swelling. Fairy lights twinkled in the background, turning the venue into a dreamscape. But David paused the video at a specific frame, zooming in on the corner of the screen. And there it was, Emily's hand, not on my arm where it should have been, but resting intimately on someone's shoulder. The camera angle caught it perfectly, her fingers curling just a bit too familiarly. And the man? Mark, my best friend, my best man, the guy who'd stood beside me at the altar, clapping me on the back and toasting to our forever. His hand was on her waist, pulling her close in a way that screamed secrecy. Their eyes locked, not on the crowd, not on me, but on each other. Like the whole wedding was their private joke, and we were the intruders. I stared at the screen, the world narrowing to that single image. My heart didn't pound, it just stopped. "When was this?" I whispered, though I knew the timestamp. Right after the first dance, when I'd stepped away to greet some relatives. David shifted uncomfortably. I didn't notice it during editing. It was in the B-roll footage. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I'm sorry, Alex. Sorry. The word hung in the air like smoke. I nodded, numb, and asked for a copy on a flash drive. He handed it over without a word. Driving home that night, the city streets felt alien, like I was navigating a stranger's life. Emily was probably asleep by now, curled up in our bed with that peaceful expression she wore so well. How long had this been going on? Was it just a flirtation? Or something more? Questions swirled, but one thing was clear. The illusion of our perfect marriage had just cracked wide open, and I wasn't about to let it shatter me without a fight. Let me take you back to how it all began, because every story like this has roots, doesn't it? Emily and I met 5 years ago at a networking event for creatives and entrepreneurs. I was there representing my budding architecture firm, shaking hands and pitching designs for sustainable homes. She was across the room, a graphic designer with a portfolio that turned heads. Bold colors, intricate patterns, the kind of work that made you feel something. She had this quiet charm, like a storm brewing under calm skies. Long dark hair, eyes that sparkled with intelligence, and a laugh that could light up the dimmest bar. I remember approaching her, coffee in hand, fumbling for an opener. "Your designs are incredible," I said, pointing to her display. "They make my blueprints look like stick figures." She smiled, tilting her head. "Well, stick figures have their charm. Simple, straightforward. I'm Emily." "Alex," I replied, and just like that, we clicked. We talked for hours about art, ambition, the chaos of building a career in a city that never sleeps. She was the calm to my storm, the one who could make even the most hectic day feel manageable. I was grinding away at my firm, pulling all-nighters to land clients, chasing that stability I'd always craved after a rough childhood bouncing between foster homes. Emily, she brought peace into the picture. Or at least that's what I told myself. Our first date was at a little Italian place downtown, pasta and wine under string lights. She shared stories of her travels, backpacking through Europe after college, sketching landmarks in her notebook. I opened up about my dreams, designing homes that weren't just structures but sanctuaries. By the end of the night, I knew she was special. We moved fast after that. Dates turned into weekends, weekends into living together. 2 years in, I proposed on a beach at sunset, ring in hand, waves crashing like applause. She said yes, tears in her eyes, and for a while, life felt perfect. But betrayal doesn't crash in like a wave. It seeps in like fog, slow and insidious. Looking back, the signs were there, scattered like breadcrumbs I chose to ignore. It started small about a year after the wedding. Emily stopped asking about my day. I'd come home exhausted, blueprints rolled under my arm, and she'd be on her phone, scrolling through something that made her smile faintly. "How was work?" I'd ask, and she'd murmur, "Fine," without looking up. Then came the locked phone. She used to leave it charging on the nightstand, screen up, no secrets. But suddenly it was face down, passcode protected. "Privacy," she said when I joked about it. "Everyone needs their space." I laughed it off, but it nagged at me. Paranoia? Maybe. Or maybe my subconscious was piecing it together. The laughter at unexplained texts was next. We'd be watching TV, some mindless comedy, and her phone would buzz. She'd glance at it, bite her lip to suppress a grin, then type back quickly. "What's so funny?" I'd ask casually. "Oh, just a meme from work," she'd reply, tucking the phone away. But her eyes would dart, just for a second, like she was guarding a treasure. I told myself it was nothing. Marriage isn't all fireworks. It's settling into routines, right? Dust gathering on the excitement. But then the late-night work call started. She'd slip out to the balcony, voice low and hushed, laughing softly into the receiver. "Client stuff," she'd explain later, climbing back into bed with a new perfume clinging to her skin. Something floral and unfamiliar. "Where'd you get that scent?" I'd ask. "A sample from the mall," she'd say, turning away. Her eyes during dinner grew distant, like she was there but not really. Staring at her plate, pushing food around, mind a million miles away. I noticed everything. The subtle shifts, the way her touch felt obligatory rather than affectionate. But I said nothing. Why? Because silence can be a shield, or in my case, a weapon I was still honing. I didn't want to accuse without proof. That would make me the villain in my own story. So I watched, waited, and let the doubts simmer. Mark was always around, of course. My best friend since college, the guy who'd been my roommate, my wingman, my confidant. He was the one who introduced me to half my clients, working in project management for a firm that often collaborated with mine. Charismatic, always with a joke ready, the life of every party. At our wedding, he gave the best man speech that had everyone in tears, talking about our friendship, how Emily was the perfect match for me, toasting to eternal love. Irony at its finest. But now, with David's revelation burning a hole in my pocket, I replayed every interaction. The way Mark would hug Emily a beat too long at gatherings. The inside jokes they shared that left me on the outside. The time he accidentally called her phone instead of mine. Coincidences? Or clues I'd been too blind to see? That night, after leaving David's studio, I didn't go straight home. I drove to a quiet park, sat on a bench under the stars, and plugged the flash drive into my laptop. Frame by frame, I dissected the footage. There were more moments, stolen glances during the ceremony, a quick touch in the photo booth line. It wasn't just the wedding. David had included some pre-wedding event clips where they lingered too close. The truth wasn't a single stab. It was 1,000 cuts. I didn't cry, didn't punch the steering wheel. Instead, a cold clarity settled over me. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the plot twist. Revenge isn't born from rage, it's calculated, like architecture. You design the foundation first, then build layer by layer until the structure is unbreakable. I closed the laptop, started the car, and headed home. Emily was asleep, the house dark and peaceful. I slipped into bed, staring at the ceiling, already planning. The next morning I acted normal. Kissed her goodbye, went to work, but my mind was a whirlwind. I started with the basics, documentation. In my office, I opened a notebook, old school pen and paper, and began listing everything. Dates of suspicious behavior. The first locked phone on March 15th. The new perfume April 2nd. Late calls starting May. Patterns. She was working late, every Tuesday and Thursday. Mark's schedule? He had meetings those same days. I knew they'd keep seeing each other. Cheaters always do. They think they're clever, mistaking luck for smarts. So I gave them space. Stopped asking where she was going. Started staying late at work myself, citing big projects. No worries, babe, I'd say with a smile. Take your time. And she did. The guilt made her sweeter. More hugs, surprise dinners, affectionate texts. She thought it hid the cracks, but it only highlighted them. Meanwhile, I began the real work, dismantling from the inside. First, the finances. Our life was intertwined, joint accounts, the house in both names, investments we'd built together. But I was the one who'd handled the paperwork, the planner in our duo. I called my lawyer, an old college buddy named Tom, under the guise of a tax review. Just want to make sure everything's optimized. I told him. We met over coffee and he pulled up our prenup. Yes, we'd signed one, practical as it was. There are some loopholes here, Tom said, scanning the pages. If you transfer assets quietly, using business entities, you can shift ownership without red flags. I nodded. Let's do it. Over the next weeks, I moved methodically. The house? Refinanced through my firm as a corporate asset for tax breaks. She signed the papers without a glance. Trust, that dangerous blindness. Bank accounts? I opened new ones in my name, transferring funds gradually, citing investment opportunities. Investments? Sold and rebought under solo holdings. It was all legal, loopholes generous to the prepared. By the end, if things went south, she'd have nothing but memories. Next, Mark, my best friend. The trader who'd smiled through our vows. He worked on contracts I influenced. His firm relied on referrals from mine for big projects. I didn't storm into his office or punch him in the face. That would be too easy, too messy. Instead, I reviewed our joint deals. One clause at a time, I amended terms, delaying payments, adding compliance hurdles, redirecting funds. Standard updates, I told his boss in emails. Within a month, his project stalled. Cash flow dried up. Whispers of mismanagement spread. I tipped off a few industry contacts anonymously, heard Mark's cutting corners, blacklisted quietly, his reputation tarnished. He called me once, frustrated. Man, everything's falling apart at work. Any advice? Bad luck, buddy, I said, voice sympathetic. Hang in there. Poetic symmetry. He'd stolen my trust. I'd stolen his livelihood. 3 months passed like this. A slow burn of suspense in my own life. I watched them from afar, piecing together their unraveling. Emily grew restless, snapping over small things. Burnt toast, misplaced keys. Her work trips increased, but the spark was fading. Mark, unemployed now, his firm collapsing under the weight of unforeseen issues. Mutual friends gossiped. Mark's in trouble. Emily seems off. They were like thieves after a botched job, turning on each other in whispers I imagined but never heard. I waited for the perfect moment, building the tension like a thriller novel. One evening, I left an envelope on the dining table, no label, just sealed. Inside, printed photos from the flash drive, wedding day betrayal, plus a few more I'd dug up, hotel lobby security stills from a conference they'd both attended, hired a PI for that, worth every penny. Her laughter frozen in lies, his arm around her. When she came home, the house was dim, lit only by the kitchen light. She dropped her bag, eyes landing on the envelope. I watched from the shadows as she opened it, hands shaking. Photos spilled out, her face draining of color. Alex? She called, voice breaking. Where did you get these? I stepped into the light, calm as ever. Poured 2 glasses of red wine, our wedding vintage, for irony's sake. Placed one in front of her. It's fascinating, I said evenly, how pictures tell the truth when people won't. She crumpled, tears streaming. It was a mistake. Mark and I. It just happened. Please, let's talk. I love you. Explanations poured out. Loneliness, excitement, regrets. She begged for mercy, for a second chance. But I'd moved past the pain into resolve. I filed the papers, I told her, sipping my wine. You'll get them tomorrow. Everything's arranged. Her eyes widened. You're destroying my life. No. I stood, voice steady. I'm just returning it to its rightful owner, you. She left the next morning, bags packed quietly. No drama, no scenes. I didn't follow, didn't need to. Within a week, the whispers started. Friends calling about her, sudden financial troubles, how she couldn't access accounts, the house in foreclosure proceedings I'd initiated quietly. Mark's firm fully collapsed, him jobless and desperate. Her reputation, tarnished by association. Clients dropping her after anonymous tips about unprofessional conduct. I never confirmed the rumors, never denied them. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes, silence is the deadliest weapon, strangling opportunities one by one. 6 months later, life had reshaped itself. My firm thrived, new clients, bigger projects. I dated casually, but trust? That was a work in progress. Then David called again. Hey, Alex, just checking in. I quit shooting weddings after your story. Too many illusions. Are you okay now? I paused, gazing out my window at the city skyline, the same one that had witnessed my fall and rise. I'm better than okay, I replied. I'm clean. There's a strange peace in closure, not from forgiveness, but from rebuilding from the ruins. And that's my story, folks. If you've made it this far, remember, betrayal hurts, but it's what you do next that defines you. Don't rush into rage. Plan, prepare, and protect yourself. Hit like if this resonated, subscribe for more real-life tales, and comment below. Have you ever been betrayed? How did you handle it? Until next time, stay vigilant. Peace out.